16 teams have been working day and night on the concept art for their spaceship. But will their creations be enough to impress the judges? The competition is about to get very real on the Next Great Starship. Gardner, and we are here in Austin, Texas, which is home to one of Cloud Imperium's main development studios. Austin, Texas is also home to some of our judges. Let's meet them again. Mark Skelton.
I am Mark Skelton. I am the art director here in the Austin CIG office, and I'm an amazing dresser. Obviously.
Style guru expert.
Wow. Still style guru.
You lost the tag.
I think I'm going to fly away.
Yeah,
here.
where's the tag?
Yeah, where's that
Maybe
tag?
I should wear them
Tag.
up like this.
Yeah.
The tag is gone.
I think the tag was actually taking way too much screen presence away
I think
from
it was
you,
too.
You should
You had a
start
little
there.
I think it was
discussion
attacking my neck. Is what was happening. It's going to attach itself.
So I'm Chris Roberts, the project director and head of Cloud Imperium Games. I don't live in Austin anymore, but I used to, and it's actually where I created Wing Commander a long time ago at a company called Origin, and then later on started another company called Digital Anvil where we did Freelancer. It's a great town, has a huge amount of talent, which is one of the reasons why we have one of our major development studios here, and a bunch of really talented folks, of which some of them I worked before, like Chris Olivier worked with me on Wing Commander and at Digital Anvil. So Austin's great. On to you, Chris.
I'm Chris Smith. I'm the lead ship modeler, and I'm based here in Austin as well. Been living here for 5 years, and I love it here.
I'm Chris Olivia, and I am Chief Visual Officer of Cloud Imperium Games. I live in Austin, and like Chris said, I worked with Chris at Origin way back in the day, and also Digital Anvil here in Austin. So.
And for the very keen eye, this is not Sean Tracy. But you would have seen David Hobbins on the last episode showing off the Mustang, and he's here with us to help judge the concept phase of this competition. And he's worked on a lot of world-class films, haven't you, David?
Yeah, before Cloud Imperium, I worked at Lucasfilm, and most recently the movie Flight and the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy. But super happy to be here in the Santa Monica studio, and I get to design spaceships every day, so.
Yeah, that's cool. We're happy to have you. So, I mean, we all love the work that you did on the Mustang, and there's some other stuff that you've done that everyone hasn't seen yet, but that's also pretty awesome.
Amazing stuff.
And now the competition is just getting started because we have 16 teams vying to get their starship in the upcoming space epic Star Citizen. And what else do we have for them?
Some crazy swag. Cintiqs. Oh my God, just a ton of stuff.
That's pretty good. The main gear rigs, which I don't know if
Those
we've
are
shown
awesome.
yet, but each
Solid
one's
gold,
themed for each one of the ship manufacturers. So we have a Drake one, and an RSI one, and a GS one, and a Anvil one.
If nobody wins, I'm stealing them all.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah.
I'm taking them for myself.
They're
What about
awesome.
time
Nobody
with you?
wins.
What about time with you, Mark? Come on.
Yeah, and they get to touch my shirt, maybe.
They should get the shirt.
If they want to give up their Cintiq, maybe I'll even give them the shirt.
Give 'em the
Well,
shirt.
even trade.
And there's the
Collectors.
Autodesk Creation
And
Suite,
yeah.
which that's a pretty significant package. I think they're like $8,000 or $9,000 retail, and every one of the team member gets one of those each. So
It's all the stuff we
Plus-
use at work. So.
yeah. No,
Plus the
it's-
cash
they'll be
prizes,
fully
right? I
cleared.
mean,
Yeah.
geez.
Cash prizes, yeah. There's three cash prizes.
No, we've had
incredible.
some very generous sponsors that are helping us do the show, and there's some great stuff for people to get. It's awesome.
So we're in the concept phase, which is phase one of this competition. And Chris, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the concept stage for me is one of the most important stages of pretty much any art development, especially something as sort of involved as a spaceship that we would have in Star Citizen, because it's really where you start to figure out, the look, but also, so it's not just the form, but it's also the function. You do a lot in the concept, so you're trying to figure out where I'm going to, place the turrets, where the engine's going to be. And so even though you don't fully model it, you sort of have to start to think about, well, where would pilot climb into his cockpit, or where would the cargo be loaded, or where would say in the case of the gunship that we're doing, it's going to be able to carry some troops, where could they unload? For me, it's really important to execute concept well, because that sets the tone for the rest of, like the modeling is very involved, and the texturing and obviously the animation, and that all brings it to actual life. But without the concept as your blueprint, I mean, the concept really, like, if you think about it in film terms, it's like the concept is the script, right? So you can't have a good movie without a good script. I mean, yes, you need actors, sets, all those things need to work and all needs to be done, but without a really good script, everything else doesn't work. And the concept is basically that version when you are sort of creating art, especially something as complicated as the spaceships.
You would say it's like the concept is kind of a two-tier thing, to where you're trying to sell an overall look and feel, and get a sort of an emotional reaction of the ship. And then you want to be able to like call out specific areas to where it's can be built in 3D accurately. So it's trying to communicate a few different things, and it's not easy to do all that in one image. So except he can do it.
Well, but even when David was doing the Mustang, which I think everyone saw last episode, I mean, you could see there was a couple of different tries, and you say, well, no, this one looks a bit too, the engines are too big, it looks too racery, let's move it to this.
It's an evolutionary.
And that's kind of why you want to, that's what you do in the concept stages, because you can sort of explore things quickly, and like Chris says, there's an emotional reaction that you'll have that you're like, oh yeah, that, like you've got an idea in your, like someone says gunship and you think something, and if the picture on the page like evokes that feeling to you, then you're on the right track. And then, like Chris says, the next stage is you sort of have to work out some of the details, because you want to work out the details of like how you get into things, or where the engines are or whatever,
utility,
before you actually start modeling it, because modeling takes a long time.
Everybody remembers the specs, right, for the mercenary gunship?
Can you repeat them for us real quick?
Yes, let me just recite them for you.
So we gave all 16 teams the same sort of bid from the UEE, which was very specific in terms of engines and turrets and sort of functionality. One thing we left open was what the manufacturer was going to be, to allow them to sort of add a little creative inspiration, where they could decide they want to make it an RSI gunship, or they want to make it a Anvil Aerospace gunship, and then also hopefully infuse some of the design elements we've seen from those manufacturers in our other ships into their gunship design, which I think would be really great. But let's see how it goes.
All right, guys, so here's how it works. Today we're going to see 6 teams, but only 4 can go through. So you're going to be voting, and 2 aren't going to make it. So there's a lot at stake. Are you guys ready to see the videos?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Love it. That'd be great.
Can't
Let's
wait.
roll the first one.
Everyone's going, too much talking from them people on the couches. Let's see the video.
For us, the mercenary gunship is a ship that covers different roles. It is at the forefront to give infantry support. It must be robust but also livable, with adequate firepower. This ship generally has low maneuverability, but at the military level we follow the general linear attacks. Let's say that our ship is a part of the tier phase. We are there to bombard the enemy infantry to cover the allied infantry with landing. Following that, we created the interior to highlight the multifunctionality of this ship. The main challenge was to create a ship that does not give the idea of speed but of straight.
Chris, Olivia, do you want to kick that off?
Me.
Yeah, you.
Dum dum dum.
I like the feel, and the silhouette was really cool. I thought the profile and the top down looked really nice, beefy, powerful. He explored a lot of different things as far as like the interior and a lot of details. So he had a lot of concept that was I think very helpful. I think the front part of the cockpit was kind of a little bit boring and could use some more sort of work. But overall, I liked it. I mean, it's cool.
David, do you want to jump in there?
Well, I thought it was interesting. I do feel like I would want to come in and tweak some of the proportions, especially in the top view. I found that it felt sort of directionless. It could be either going backwards or forwards, and it was completely symmetrical. So I think I would want to, make one of those wing frames smaller versus the other. And the same thing in the side profile. I found it was a little even. And so I might want to distribute the mass around, make it a little more dynamic. And then the only other thing I would mention would be the connection points between the major components. I think I might want to spend some more time on that and make sure that each of the parts are informing each other and working with each other. It felt a little, bolted together.
I like the front part, actually, sort of the language of the wing and the front part, and the rear sort of felt a little off for me.
Attached, yeah.
I think, that's what you meant, like the sort of middle connection was maybe a little bit too fragile looking or something. I do like the detail that they put in of sort of, where the thrusters go, the pilots and the interior design. There was some thought put into that, which I liked. But I thought too, like what you were saying, it's sort of like all the appendages were going in all kinds of different ways, maybe, like those back wings.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about it.
Yeah, but,
You're wrong.
You're wrong.
I mean, I think that's interesting. I just think that one of those needs to sort of serve the other. One needs to be.
I like, those wings that kind of were on the sides. I like those. I like that. It's just, but the whole rear part didn't gel with me with the front.
Yeah.
So did you feel it was just all too much of the same?
No, I just, in particular, from the top silhouette, I felt it was two arrows that were pointing in either direction.
I didn't love it. I mean, I liked what those guys did with their gun. They didn't really do much for me. I didn't, I like the fact that they were thinking out where things would go and all the rest of stuff, but in terms of shape and silhouette, it was kind of there. And then also the rendering style of the concept art wasn't,
it was a bit
like I prefer a sort of more sophisticated, photorealistic style.
Was a little
this felt more sort of kind of like, I don't know, sort of cartoony, graphic novel-y style for me. But I don't know, what do you think, Mark?
I could see the marine animal vibe it kind of felt like a manatee to me. It felt like a
manatee.
Sea cow.
the big.
I shall name it
and
the sea cow. The thing about it is that I think if you're going to go that spiky with the silhouette, that honestly your rendering style has got to calm down in the interior bits because there was just too much detail to look at all at once. I mean, I liked
Is this your frequency tip?
Yes. Damn it. I say this every time, but if you're going to go crazy frequency like that, then either smooth out the silhouette and concentrate on frequency inside the object, or if you're going to go that detailed spiky with the silhouette, then it would push the concept better if you just calm down the interior a little bit to give your eye a rest, because it's got plenty to look at.
Interior, like the interior of the silhouette.
The interior of the silhouette of the ship. It's not bad. I mean, I agree with David that it's kind of, it feels like the front part is kind of separated. I mean, it doesn't feel like it flows. There needs to be more pieces that flow into each other better.
I think also the illustrative style, delineating all the panels is not helping.
Right.
Like you said, the silhouette is already dynamic. It's going to move the eye around. But then as you go inside, you go to move
mean,
from the front to the back, then you have all these panel
When they had
lines
that
that
thing,
are
when they were in
blocking
well,
your
I
eye
don't know what
movement.
3D
Yeah.
application they're in. I didn't see, but when they had the sort of simple silhouette in 3D application, that looked better to me than the just the
Well, that's
straight
where you can
2D
blow it with just like
concept rendering.
too much like too of a cartoony style in the concept, or calling out too many details.
Yeah.
In the interior.
I mean, for
Yeah,
our
the
for our
interior,
for our game, I mean, in some other stuff that could work, but for the
Right.
style we're going for a sort of very sort of photorealistic style, and so that's partly important to have it in the concept stage, or else when you get down to the model stage, the model sort of feels a bit cartoony.
Mixed reviews on this one. Let's roll the next one.
Hey guys, ePhalanx here with Team TryTry. This is our entry for the Next Great Starship. So we start out with like 4 or 5 concepts. Narrowed it down. We really were thinking on this one at first. It was a heavy fighter look though, a little bit outside the gunship. Then we moved on to this one, which we thought had more of that aggressive stance, and also made some thrusters we thought we'd use. More sketching of the concept just to give us a better look from different angles. And then some thruster work, just showing you how the wings articulate with the thrusters. And that was going to be important considering the gimbal thrusters that were outlined in the concept. And we moved on to a little block out face to give us a better thought on the geometry, and moved into some internal layouts. And this shows you just how things are laid out inside of the ship with the turrets and stairs. As you can see, the design has been a little more fleshed out. This time around, the paint over has been added to, giving you more of a better look and feel of the ship overall.
Do you want to kick this one off?
That one was pretty awesome. I like that one. I like the silhouette, how it has kind of an aggressive stance. It almost looks like a gorilla, like flexing, silverback kind of feel to it. I dig that. The details, very nice. Again, I like the way, like we were talking earlier about flow. That's a good example of how you can have a lot of detail on the ship, but they flow nicely together. So you're not breaking your eye from going across the ship. I think there was a lot of nice detail in there. And overall, I mean, I think it's a really strong design.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, the quality of the concept was better in this one, so it already comes across better in that way. I like the shape. Actually, it kind of, that stance reminded me of the Van Duel ship. It kind of has the cockpit in the middle with those 2 arms sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
It did look, powerful and heavy. I quite like the design. I agree with Chris. Maybe like the rear thrusters, we'd have to look at a little bit some more, maybe another iteration, and see what the other maneuvering thrusters are. There was like a couple of detail specs that were maybe not included in that. But overall, the art style I thought was pretty good.
Chris?
It's cool.
That's it?
No, it was. I mean, I generally agree with everybody. It's. I mean, I do like the front arm parts.
Everyone likes that except for me. I think it may be just because that
It's got a
reminds me way
bulldog
too
feel,
much of
'cause
the,
it's like
of the
short in the back
like
and-
the old Wing Commander Dralty stuff.
It
or
might
the-
take away from the fact that it feels less powerful thrust-wise, because it's like putting all the focus on the front.
Yeah, and that's what's making it feel heavier. Like you're saying, it's kind of front heavy, and that's because your eye just goes straight to those wings.
Yeah, it feels
I
like
can
a
see
bulldog. It's like real.
Right.
It's got like the tail end sort of like diminished, and then the front.
That. Right.
It's more
Which I can see
exaggerated.
where
That's
it
what we
would
think about a
feel
bulldog.
off.
That's how they look.
Gorilla, I thought you said.
Yeah, silverback. Thank
Silverback,
you.
yeah.
It was it was nice. The rendering style was better. I think in the design phase, I think a lot of stuff doesn't need to be photoreal right off the bat, because you're still exploring sort of like pieces and sort of shapes.
But I mean, like you could see when he went in the video, they go over the process. You could actually see like kind of what the concept process is, right? So they drew some stuff out, then they did a simple 3D block out, then they did paint overs on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that was
right.
actually quite
Yeah.
nice, because
That was nice.
that was showing kind of like what you
the
would normally do in
blue
that process.
color erase pencil iterations and
And he showed reference,
resolving
which is
surfaces.
key. to bring it into the real world. But yeah, so overall, that was cool.
All right, what do you
Yeah.
think, David?
I really liked this one. I thought it was a fantastic presentation, pretty professional all around. I like the arms too.
Give up, I'm in a minority.
But I
I
will say
understand what you're
this:
saying.
I do think that the rear thruster pods, the ones that are gimbaled and articulate, I feel like they weren't really long enough to balance
Right.
the length of the front pod. And I think if you were to just figure out a way to, lengthen them.
So, Chris, what did you think?
Well, I really liked it. So I thought the rendering style was really good. I also liked the way that you could see the process of sort of concept evolution, right? So a lot of it, like the initial sketching, then doing a block out in 3D, then doing paint overs. That's very much what you tend to do on this kind of stuff. I'm not so sure I was in love with the two big front wings. It sort of felt a little front heavy for me. But the rest of it I quite liked. But I thought, in general, it was cool. Like I said, the style was sort of more functional and slightly more detailed and photorealistic for me, so it worked better. I think we forgot to tell everyone that they need to pick a manufacturer, but for me, this one sort of felt very Drake-like to me. So the turret on the top sort of felt like a Cutlass, so perhaps it's a Drake submission for the gunship bit. But yeah, no, I thought it looks really great. I mean, it would be nice to see what sort of changes and tweaks they make.
All right, well, generally well liked. Let's roll the next one.
Greetings, citizens. Fuzzy Modem here. Past the first gauntlet and onto the concept art phase of the Next Great Starship competition. For this design, I'm imagining that it's a used ship. You're buying it from these three mercenaries. There's the captain, he's an alcoholic vet who has a grudge against pirates. There's the crazy guy who couldn't get into the military because he couldn't get past the psych evaluation. And then there's the technician who got kicked out of the military for hacking into his drill instructor's file and changing his gender. So these guys have been living and working and sleeping and sweating and eating on this ship for years. When something broke, they patched over it or jury-rigged a workaround, and now they're looking to get a bigger ship and add some more crew, and you can get this ship at a good price if you accept that it's kind of a fixer-upper and you're buying it as is. For the design itself, I took inspiration from a sword and shield. It's an asymmetrical design with a big plate of armor and two turrets on one side. Because it's an asymmetrical design, I'm working on visual balance as well as center of mass. I'm also trying to position thrusters for improved roll speed as well as VTOL capability while in atmosphere, so it would fly more like a helicopter than a jet.
All right, David, you want to kick this one off?
Sure. Well, I really like the colorful backstory and actually the design story basing, him starting with the shield and sword concept and trying to bring that through into the design, as well as his thoughtfulness when it came to function and utility of the vehicle. I liked the second design better. I felt it was a little more unified. For me, what's jumping out as a negative is really the surfacing, the form language. It's a little too rectilinear, and I get that may speak to survivability and being robust. But that said, I feel like parts need to be a little more integrated, a little more designed, and the large bolts were really speaking to an earlier construction period that doesn't fit into this universe and is also throwing the scale off for me. So I would refine the surfaces, but ultimately I think he's balancing the asymmetric design pretty well, especially in the second one.
All right, Chris Olivia.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything David said. Yeah, it was a great build-up.
Why do you guys hug a little bit? You're so close.
The way,
David said.
no,
Copying off his paper, are we?
the backstory was awesome. It was a nice build-up, and then it was sort of like the first version was very ugly, but not ugly in a good way. And then he made some big improvements with the second version. There was a lot of like little pieces all over the place that you didn't know, they just seemed tacked on. You didn't know what they're for. Obviously the bolts and the scale is a huge issue, and they were just all over the place and too big. And the fact that he was presenting it with a lot of black shadow everywhere. You couldn't really get a sense of like overall form. I think he needs to sort of display it and show it in a nicer render, or a few different views at least. It was an interesting concept the way he was describing the sort of the shield on one side and the weapon on the other, and it was, I thought, just needs to be executed better, and take it a little bit further and try some different things.
Chris, are you going to pony up with Chris and David, or you got some of your own thoughts?
No, I mean,
I have no thoughts of my own.
yeah, there's no thoughts.
Ditto.
I mean, I agree with some of the stuff that they said. Obviously, the one thing I missed was like the thruster placements and stuff. It was not really fleshed out, and some of the interior crew design stuff was not there. Just a lot of the hardware stuff wasn't really fully rendered out. The first design didn't really like that much. The weapon was bubbly looking, and yeah, the surface was a
It
little
also
bit
looked like the gun pod towards the narrow end of the wing
very
frame.
fragile.
Looked, like it would snap
just
right
snap
off.
So yeah, the second design is definitely better, more cohesive, and a little bit more tougher looking. And I agree, yeah, the surfacing could use some work, even though, I mean, he describes it's supposed to be sort of patched together and everything, but you can do that in a better way. It was just not rendered very well, I thought. And presentation is a big thing, so it carries a lot.
Mark, presentation.
Yeah, the presentation for me wasn't super great. It felt, I mean, because the bolts were so big, it made it feel super small. So it felt like a Matchbox car or something. It was hard to tell like what was what. Like where is the thrusters? Where are the, where does the pilot sit? Where are the, like it looked like a bunch of boxes, kind of just random boxes on like a ruler or something with, a little weight on the end of it. It didn't flow very well as far as to tell me like visually what I'm looking at, and that kind of ruined it for me.
Chris Roberts.
Story was great. I mean, maybe we should talk to him about getting on the writing team.
There you go.
Felt like very sort of Serenity / Firefly background story. But generally, I sort of agree. I mean, like a couple of things. One, it does feel like a kind of horizontal B-wing from Star Wars. So that's the ship that's sort of tall, vertical one. And the second design I definitely liked a lot better than the first design. But even on the second design, I would look at that and go, okay, well, how are the thrusters? Because, there was, he was talking about, okay, well, you can roll to put the shield in front of your attacker and stuff, but like, are the attackers coming from the side? Are they coming from the front? I mean, it sort of felt to me like that whole concept sounded really great in the pitch, but I was looking at the ship wondering how it's really going to do that. Where the thrusters were that would allow it to roll, where the thrusters were that would allow it to yaw a pitch or anything else like that. As far as the manned turrets, looking at it, it sort of didn't look like, they didn't look very particularly like, how do you get into those? How do you sit in them? It was hard to get a sense of, get a sense of scale, partly I think probably because, talking about like the rivets and the bolts. So yeah, I would have liked to see more angles of it, not just, like it would have been better to sort of almost go with the concept and do a block out and then render some different versions of that and do paint overs and get some sense of scale, like Chris is suggesting, a human figure in there. Like, how do I, how do you get inside the ship? How does it land? Like all those things have to be really thought out before you go to the modeling stage. I think on the 3D modeling side, maybe he's stronger because he's a one-man show, so maybe he's stronger on the modeling than on the concept side. But those would be all the things I'd like to see answered. I mean, I like the idea and the concept of the shield and the sword, and so that all sounded great. It just looking at the, I wasn't saying I want to own that spaceship, and really that's what we're designing here. We're designing a spaceship that, everyone out there in Star Citizen world goes, I want to have that sitting in my hangar, and I was sort of looking at that going, yeah, it's kind of not doing it for me, unfortunately. So.
Okay, well. People seem to like the second version, but still quite a few questions unanswered. Let's roll the next one.
This is 1-bit Amoeba, and I show you my concept for the mercenary gunship. First thing I did was to think about where to place the turrets on the ship, and I decided to put 2 on the top and 1 on the bottom in the front. This way we have a very good coverage and nearly no dead spots around the ship. And in addition to that, we have some areas which are covered by 2 or by all 3 turrets. The green area here is roughly where 2 turrets cover, and the red one is where all 3 turrets can shoot at the target. Really got the shape which I really like, and that's this version. The interior, I made a rough layout with the main areas. For example, the crew area and the cargo hold. And here you can see the ship again from the side view, top view and the front. And this is the image how it would look like while landing. And another one while in space. Thanks for watching.
All right, Chris Smith, what did you think of that one?
So I actually like this one quite a bit.
Is that surprising to you?
No, I mean, I thought he had some good iterations. I like the idea of his coverage of the turrets and everything. That was kind of cool, and he thought about that, sort of weaponizing it and making it pretty powerful that way. The first iteration, he went through a couple. I liked it better as it went on, when it kind of went a little bit wider with the wings and everything. It was a cool design. The one thing I would say critique-wise would be it's animations would help. Some previous animations on the thrusters, it was hard to tell like how they would work perhaps, and the whole pitch and yaw thing, how it would actually work in space. I like the interior. He called out the interiors and has specific areas. I like that. I didn't like from the top view. I guess from a design standpoint, the top view it sort of had like this weird snake-like cockpit with the head. I probably would adjust that a little bit because it makes it look a little fragile, perhaps. In that area, it's just this long, skinny neck, with the cockpit at the end. But overall, everything else was pretty solid.
Chris, do you agree?
It's interesting the way it overall feels like a very flat sort of like shape, except they had the cockpit fuselage area sort of like more of a skinny vertical thing, and I think with some support structures sort of like holding that in place, I think it would have felt a little bit more powerful. I think it did, maybe the next iteration, do the paint overs to kind of push it a little bit further, but the fact that he was able to achieve something really nice with just basic flat shading and very sort of like the angular shapes were really well done. It was done in a very nice way. It reminded me a little bit of Ryan Church.
It looked a little stealthy.
Very stealthy. The side view, at first I was like, oh, it's kind of very simple from the profile, but it is a nice sort of clean, just profile silhouette. The front view head-on looked a little weird and sort of messy. I wasn't sure why, but overall it's a nice, clean
It's
design.
like a wedge.
Yeah.
I like that kind of wide.
No,
That's cool.
no.
That's yes. Oh yeah.
David, what did you?
I like this design a lot. I think it has a lot of potential. I like the teardropped delta wing, but then he's cut into it and sort of extruded the fuselage and cockpit section from that. I think it creates a pretty sophisticated form. That said, when it comes to some of the cockpit and mullion breakup of the cannons and the front cockpit, it seemed to be lacking in sophistication. So if I were him, I would go back and bring those things up to the level of sophistication of the main shape. And the only other critique I would have would be when it was landed, it wasn't quite as sexy looking as it was in flight mode.
Yeah, I agree. I think what it was the verticality of the thrusters kind of ruined the line
Is that
of
a
the
word?
ship. What?
Is that a word?
Yeah, that was
Verticality?
frequency. Verticality,
Verticality.
thrusting, frequency.
Verticality, frequency, thruster, it kind of ruined the line when it was sitting, and that kind of bothered me a little bit too.
You mean when they were deployed into VTOL position?
VTOL, yeah.
Vertical takeoff and landing.
That's right. That's what that stands for. The other thing, yes, the neck, it's annoying because it's so fragile. I think if you were to have, maybe from the top down, if you had some supports that came out and maybe made it a little porous, it might make it look a little more reinforced, because it looks right now.
Would you really need it
just
to be
like
quite as
snap.
long and deep, right? I mean, I don't. What's the benefit of that?
I didn't see the reason why there's
Right?
a gap.
I mean,
Right.
there
Yeah.
usually should be some kind of
Just
reason
fill it
for
in.
It had a bit of like a little bit of a
wide
retaliated
fat
vibe to
stands.
it for me.
Yeah. 'cause
Like
it's
if I was going to pick
flat.
I could say it could be an Aegeus ship, or I mean, I'll say like
Even
for me,
Drake.
this is my favorite one of the ones I've seen so far.
I do like
So
it.
I really, I liked, like Chris said, I like the idea that, was thinking about like the gun turret placement and coverage, which I think if you're making a gunship, that's probably the first thing you should be thinking about. So that was really good. I actually, a couple of the earlier iterations, one that was a bit more sort of, it almost felt like it was the Millennium Falcon with some stuff stuck on the front and the back, but it had the two turrets actually attached on the side. So I like the final design a lot. I agree on the neck, right? It sort of feels like it's a bit too long, so I would have it shorter, and it should feel like there's some reason, whatever, some detail could be in there. It could be kind of cool. I actually quite thought it was cool when it was landing with the thrusters down in the VTOL position. So that may be just me versus other people's opinions on that. Like Chris said, I'd like again to take a look and make sure that the thrusters could move and apply the directions. It looked like he placed them in generally the right areas. So
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I mean, I think for the second iteration, maybe the guys can include little previous animations on those kinds of things, like really simple keyframing, block out animations on those things would help a lot.
Yeah. Basically, if you have a great idea, you have to show it.
Yeah.
You can't just tell us about it. It has to be communicated in an illustration or an animation. So.
Well, positive reviews for that one, but we're not done yet. Here we go with the next video.
Hello, Star Citizen community. Our design process involves the members of Team Catapult getting together, just sitting down, throwing down ideas on a sketch pad, talking about various features we wanted. We wanted the mission profile to basically be able to involve things such as land marines on a planet's surface, and basically function like an armored truck in space. As those discussions came to a head, we decided we wanted to go with something that was aerodynamically sleek and avoided the sci-fi pitfall that most quote-unquote dropships use, and that is the flying brick. We came up with the idea of retractable wings that could help with the aerodynamic control going into the atmosphere, and then also be pulled in during combat to provide a lower profile of a target. Now I present to you Anvil Aerospace's Albatross, the mercenary gunship from Team Catapult. Then what we did is we printed off some renders that we could then sketch upon on paper. We could then, share our ideas again. As we go forward, we'll be adding more and more details to the overall design. As you can see with this image here, we're in our closed mode, and this would be for interstellar travel, providing a smaller target and keeping sensitive parts of the wings unavailable. And this is again the top-down view of it opened up. So you can see that when they're coming into an atmosphere, the pilot would pull up, deploy the wings, and that would provide a huge braking surface. For the engines, we wanted to go with something similar to how the F-35 Lockheed Martin works, where the engine can turn 90 degrees, and in our case we'd rotate the engine so you could get some more range so they can act as thrusters. And this is its landed view. As you can see here, we've got the cockpit access as well as the missile racks deployed. This is an interior cross-section of our ship. We wanted to go with a two-level sort of split design. It would be very compressed and compact. This is Scott Cook from Team Catapult signing off, saying see you in the verse.
Chris, what did you think?
I can't really comment on it because it's everything's so not finished and amateurish, so I wasn't happy.
Okay.
Moving on.
It's very diplomatic of you.
David Hobbins.
I feel like nothing's really pulling me into this design. There's nothing.
Come on.
Sorry.
Just say it.
I feel like the overall shape could be cool, could be workable. you know, it's interesting to see sort of that the thought going into some function, utility, layout of the interior. That said, a lot of the surfacing, the sketching over the 3D model renderings was lacking. So I would, you know, go back, continue to work that 3D block in, maybe try to get a little more visual interest going there, and then take another long pass at the surfacing and internal graphics of this ship.
I think it took away from it how loose the sketching was. I mean, even if they just like used a ruler to do some of the lines, it would have helped sell it. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep.
No.
There was a lot of problems with that concept. So, first of all, the sketches were very rudimentary and very amateurish. I mean, so, you know, like David was saying, there was no confidence in the line art. Even though we're making 3D assets, you know, it helps, you know, to be able to draw and present things, right? You need to be able to present things correctly. And there's this problem, you know, even though he put a lot of thought into the things where thruster placements are and loading, you know, docking collars and stuff like that, it was just hard to tell what was going on because the drawings were not very good at all. So the 3D shape maybe had some promise, but overall I thought this was pretty weak.
Chris Roberts.
Well, I will remind everyone that I voted for AEM over Team Catapult.
Told you so.
I did
And
too.
Chris did too, because I thought the you know, the AEM design was much more interesting.
So the rest of us are fired. Is what you're saying.
And I thought
wasn't even here,
Team
so-
Catapult design wasn't particularly inspiring. I'm kind of, therefore I'm angry about that, and then angry about seeing a concept design that sort of feels like it was sort of like phoned in or done in a very short period of time.
There's no reason to be angry. This is all for fun.
And not presented well. No, because I feel like you should take it seriously. You got this far, right? There's a bunch of people that wanted to get this far, that worked really hard to get this far. There was some people that were on the cusp
Put a lot
that
of
you
work
could
in.
you could flip a coin. I mean, we even had some people that, you know, we all voted, like there's some other teams that we all voted for, and they were emailing us going, hey, how come we didn't even make the cut of 24? Well, it turned out they were like number 26 or number 25, and they were literally, you know, when we were making our picks, they had like 4 of us said, yeah, that would be a good one to put in, and it just sort of ended up, they just missed the cusp. And so I sort of feel like you get to this stage, you can't phone it in, and this is absolutely phoning it in. And on the, you know, maybe they're not great on 2D work, or maybe they're not great on concept, because really when we looked at the Catapult one, it was mostly sort of more the 3D work that we saw. But then if you're going to do that, do what One Bit Amoeba did, which was like work, you know, do your concepting in 3D and block it out. I mean, you know, the little bit of 3D block out in that was the best thing about it. I mean, the detail and line work on top was like, I just don't want to, I mean, it ain't gonna help you, and there is no way that is now gonna have any chance of going through. I promise you that of the, you know, we've got 10 to go, 10 are gonna go through from the 16, and they ain't gonna make the 10. I promise you, they're not gonna make the 10. I mean, it just isn't gonna happen. So it's sort of like
12.
or the 12, or whatever it would be. Okay, 10 we vote for,
Yeah.
and the community saves
Yeah,
2 of them. Anyway, the
community
point is, it sort of feels like it was phoned in, and that kind of bugs me. If you get this far, like, why get this far and then sort of drop the ball?
Can we get him on the phone right now?
No, I would. I'd like, if someone was working for me and did that, I would like chew them out. So yes, I'm not happy, and I'm
You
not
can
voting
curse
for
if
them.
you want.
There you go.
They'll bleep it out.
Mark Skelton.
I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic for a second grader, which I hope a second grader did this. Well, it's got a Romulan bird of prey feel, I'll say that, like for the blockout. But yeah, I mean, how can you argue with the implementation? It's not good.
They've got the talent. That's why I'm sort of angry. It's like
That's
you got the talent, so
They didn't put
And
the
they just
deliver
ruined,
it.
They
They
just
didn't put the
ruined the
effort in.
chance. You know, they ruined their chance, and that's a bummer because you got to take this seriously. There's a lot at stake here, you know, and we take everything that we do here seriously, you know, and we have the top people in the world working on this, and there's hundreds of people out there that would die for this chance.
Right, they sort of
and
wasted it for someone else.
and they wasted it, and that's a bummer.
Right. Here's the last video of the day.
Greetings once again, fellow citizens. This is Skyguard Fabrications, and I'm honored and excited to have been selected to compete in this competition. I spent a lot of time doing nothing but silhouettes. I did a lot of them. What I was doing was looking for a silhouette that resonated with me, and the challenge was to come up with an overall design that fit in with the current military ships, but that also could be identified at a glance as an independent, unique design. I'm proud to present the Guardian AX-1. The core of my design centered around the idea of being able to deploy Marines into combat as quickly and as safely as possible. So you'll notice that the mercenary gunship has 2 large hatch doors on either side with built-in rappelling systems. This is to allow Marines to deploy from the ship without forcing the ship to land. Because of where the turrets are placed, the main Class 4 and one of the Class 5s are able to provide ground support to the Marines either during deployment or throughout the ground operation. It will be very, very difficult to sneak up on this ship. You have almost no location around the ship that there isn't the possibility that this mercenary gunship can shoot back at you.
All right. Mark, silhouettes, frequency.
Yes, silhouettes. Awesome. I love the silhouettes that he explored. A lot of those are great. I mean, he could have used quite a few of those. I think the one he picked was good. I would say that there's a lot, like the top of it is very clean, and the underside has a lot of detail in it. Because of all that detail and because of the bulkiness of the bottom, that the wings felt a little small, like a big fat bird with like kind of little wings, which when they fold out they look better, but he needs to, for me personally, I think he needs to rethink the wings a little bit and make them proportionate. I mean, I realize that it's like a spaceship and that really doesn't matter in space or whatever, but just weighting wise for me.
The spec says it also has to be capable of atmospheric
Did you see those guys rappelling out?
Yeah, I know. Okay, so if you have enough
Propulsion,
thruster,
yeah.
then you can have a, UFO if you want,
Right.
saucer. But for me, the wings felt too small to handle this big, thick ship. Now, I do like the underbelly, like I said, and I like the way the detail works. I like that the top is clean. It's kind of like a turtle, where from the top you don't really realize how, what you're dealing with.
What did you think about the wings?
I think I'm going to kick you in the face about the wings.
What did you think about the wings, Chris?
Oh, you're going to me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, what did you think about the wings, Chris?
No, it was. I completely, for the most part, agree with Mr. Skelton. What? I think overall,
Even on the wings?
About everything. In fact,
what
I'm not
about
gonna
the
say
wings,
anything.
though? We're talking about the wings
He
here.
always disagrees with me.
No, I felt overall it was too sleek and fightery looking. Actually, I think there could be something done differently with the wings, without just like standard sort of like sweatback wings.
Yeah.
I think even though the rendering style was a bit sort of like cartoony, I think it would translate into real world pretty nicely. And there's a lot of thought put into just the interior and sort of like what was going on. It's pretty good. I thought the wings were a little bit too small for the ship.
What?
Wings?
I disagree.
Wings. That wasn't my biggest problem, and especially when the wings sort of deploy out,
better, yeah.
I felt that it was a little more balanced. I think from the profile, its drooping nose, I get that sort of served a function, that it might get more visibility for the pilots and such, and the gun pod and landing gear assembly, front landing gear assembly. But that said, I still, in profile, I felt it felt a little droopy and needed to be balanced by something else. So I would play around there. I like how he communicated a lot of the ideas he had about the function and utility of people being able to drop down and be deployed on the ground. Style-wise, surfacing-wise, it could use a second pass, although I think he's headed in the right direction. I would look at more reference, more real-world vehicles, and certain things. I remember there are these 2 intakes that have on the side, and they felt almost cartoony. So it's really important to get the size and proportion of these things correct, and it will sell the rest of the vehicle. So, but otherwise, pretty
I
good
take
job.
back what I said, and I'm going to say what he said.
Chris, would you like to say what he
sure.
said, she said?
Yeah, I disagree. No.
Yeah.
Actually, I do disagree with the wing part. I thought the wings were cool. It looked like a, although it kind of felt like a bomber, like a heavy bomber to me, rather than like a gunship, perhaps. The style was cool. All the silhouettes he did were awesome. Like Mark said, you probably could have used quite a few of those. Yeah, the one he chose, the silhouette he chose, I almost like better than the final rendering. But with the wings up, with the extended wings up, I thought the shape was interesting and cool. One thing on the technical side, it was he didn't really mention, like, I mean, he mentioned the main thrusters, but not really the maneuvering thrusters was kind of maybe fleshed out. Oh, maybe he did, but he didn't mention
I
it.
didn't. I was looking for him. I didn't see him on the front.
Yeah, I didn't really see
So
anything.
I mean, there's even some. I mean, the back thrusters, he had them rotating, which was great, but
Yeah.
then you need to yaw, so you actually need
Right.
to be able to
Yeah,
go
he
this
had
way
the
as well
main
with them.
ones.
They were just that, so you would actually need them also to come out this way, and then you would need ones in the front to basically do the same thing. And I didn't see those on the design.
Right.
I like the approach, right? So I like the fact that it was like, okay, I'm going to do a bunch of silhouettes, and I'm going to look at all the silhouettes of the existing military ships that there's already in the universe. So I thought he really approached it the right way in terms of how to make this fit inside the universe. So that was a thought process was really good. Like Mark said, there was a bunch of silhouettes in there that I would be, oh, that'd have been cool. You know, I tend to prefer a slightly more photorealistic sort of rendering style when you're doing the 2D side. So this was a little cartoony. I did think there were parts on the ship that sort of came across sort of slightly out of proportion that would look great in like a comic or a graphic novel, but not necessarily more in sort of a kind of sort of film design stuff. But having said that, I really like the way that the sort of inside was thought out, how you would get in, what the coverage of the turrets were. That was all good. I kind of felt like the front cockpit nose area for me, just sort of felt a bit small. I didn't quite like its sort of shape. For me, I would like to see different explorations there. Maybe make the front cockpit better for visibility, more exploration. It just sort of felt like you were kind of attaching an Apache helicopter cockpit on the front of some big fatter thing at the back. And
Was
so
it
it
too
sort of felt,
droopy?
well, it just felt really small. It felt
Well,
like,
it had like
felt
you
small
know,
compared to the rest.
It had the cockpit, and then you had all this mechanical stuff. Like
Yeah.
it was real bulky underneath.
Well, I like
and
the
cockpit-
fact that there was a sort of concealed gun that can come out or whatever. But I just sort of felt like that front air, that part could have had like some more substance. Thrusters I would have liked to see. I like the wing configuration when it was sort of like they're tilted up. I didn't quite like it so much when they weren't there. But I did like that he'd worked the interior out, and it looked like, okay, here's where they would store their weapons and all the rest of stuff. So all that was good. So generally, I a lot of potential, have some criticisms, but I'd love to see the next iteration.
I just wanted to add that the silhouettes were awesome, and I wanted to design in all of them. So really creative, and that if you've got that stage going on, then you're well on your way to becoming a fantastic designer.
All right, guys, it is now time for voting. So if you get out your phones and email me your top 4, I will tally the votes. We'll work out 4 going through and the 2 that are going to get cut. I'm guessing that Catapult
might not. Make
not
it.
might be in your phone.
I get catapulted.
What makes you think that, Sandra?
All right, guys, I've tallied the votes and it's unanimous. Team Catapult
Is in.
will not be moving on.
Oh.
But with 5 votes each, I can tell you that Skyguard Fabrications, 1-Bit Amoeba, and TryTry are now officially going on to round 2. So that leaves us with Cryo and 3 Dingo, which was a close vote. So let's hear how that one played out. Mark, do you want to start?
You guys are going to shoot me. If we can work with them and iterate a little bit, I honestly think that even though it was 12-year-old looking sketch, I think 3 Dingo actually has enough there to be able to art direct them into something that's really cool. That's my opinion.
You and 3 didn't go. I went with Cryo because I liked the weapon that he did, and I think there's talent in 3D modeling, and I sort of felt like, I mean, even the rendering style wasn't terrible in the concept stuff. It was just I thought the kind of approach had the issues we brought out, but I thought Cryo at least was trying something different, whereas the 3 Dingo one was a more straight ahead kind of dropship style one. So yeah, that's why I picked Cryo. But hey, listen, I picked AEM because I thought that was more interesting. Look what happened.
Here we go.
All right, Chris Smith.
So yeah, I went with Cryo as well. You know, Cryo had a little bit more interest, a bit more thought put into it, and I really liked the backstory of the guy too. So it was interesting in that regard. I think, yeah, a little bit more iteration on that, and it could be something pretty unique.
Cryo for you, Chris Olivietta.
Oh, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
I went with, like Mark, 3 Dingo.
Whoa.
Oh,
Wow.
man.
So-
Nail biter.
You'd almost think this was staged. I don't believe that. It's like one of those things. It's 1-1-1-1. It's like
planned
the
this ahead of
NBA
time.
Finals. It's like, why are we even bothering listening to the 4 of us?
I know.
We should just ask David Hobbins. Sorry. About the last match.
This is-
Whoa.
Please, I don't
I
care.
have a long-winded explanation on why I chose,
It's cool.
because these are the Italian guys, right?
Yes.
Party with those guys.
No,
very cool.
as much as I like the guy from Alaska and all the alcohol in that area.
That's true.
No, and I agree that he had a very unique approach in design. I just think in the end, I think there's more potential with the 3 Dingo ship.
All right.
Okay.
David Hobbins, all the pressure is
Down
on
to
you.
me.
Drum roll.
This
Get
this
this
for
right.
me was really close. I could make arguments either way. That said, I did end up going towards Cryo, and and again, it was really close. But
Yeah,
I
it was
guess
close.
the backstory, the thoughtfulness, the Cryo's passion for his vehicle and the weapon in previous episodes just completely won me over. And again, him not going with such a conventional design, I like that. And I think with some coaching, he will have the passion and sort of resilience to take this
Just rolled
all
his
the way.
eyes.
I guess I can accept that.
I'm changing my vote. based
But
on-
again,
As
you know,
Yeah, I'm changing my vote
I
too.
feel
I
that-
like Cryo.
but
Unanimous.
All right.
you know,
So Team Catapult and 3 Dingo have been cut. However, that does not mean that they are out because there is the save. The community gets involved once again. At the end of phase 1, you guys will get to vote back in 2 teams. So all the teams will get the judges' feedback. They'll do another pass and put up their new video, and you guys get to vote 2 teams back in. So next week, 3 more teams move on and 2 more get cut. See you next Friday.
Later.
Take it easy.
Later.
Don't suck.
Being real.
American PI.
that's how the show's going to
Oh my
begin.
God.
Real.
Been real.